So this girl is about to murder her best friend and get busted for it because of a selfie. Now the girl, her name's Cheyenne, and she's 21, she lives in Saskatoon in Canada, and she has this friend Brittany. And Brittany's 18, and they met at school, and they hang out, and they party together, and pretty soon, they become best friends. Now, Brittany, she's a pretty good kid. She's in high school, but she works hard. She works 2 jobs. She got big dreams. She wants to go to college and work in the hospitality business one day. While Cheyenne, on the other hand, she's kind of a turd. She apparently already has over 50 convictions for things like shoplifting, stuff like that. And she's allegedly also a big fan of some of the harder drugs that people like to do. And most people in Brittany's life think that Cheyenne is bad news. Regardless, Brittany defends her friend. She sticks up for her. She's like, no, she's a good person. You don't know her. But one night, their friendship, it goes completely wrong. Because Brittany and Cheyenne, they make plans to go out and do a little drinking, which they do often enough. So they get ready, their hair and their makeup or whatever, and once they're good to go, they take a selfie together. This selfie. There's Brittany here, and Cheyenne is right here. And immediately, Brittany posts it on her Facebook page. And then they leave, and they end up at a bar. And they do some drinking there, and they have a good time. Then they end up at a house party. And they do some drinking there, and they also do some drugs, because I guess they're going a little hard tonight, but whatever. They're having a good time. Then, around 4:30 in the morning, they've been out all night at this point getting wasted. And they end up at McDonald's. And they're both messed up and a little belligerent, stumbling around, and they're in the parking lot. And I guess maybe Cheyenne is trying to call someone she shouldn't. I don't know, we don't really have the details of this part. But for some reason, Brittany decides to take Cheyenne's phone away from her. Maybe she was just being playful, maybe it was just a joke, maybe she was being mean. Again, we don't know the details, but we do know that she swipes her phone from her. And Cheyenne doesn't like this one bit, and she is pissed. How's she gonna take my phone from me? So they start getting into it and arguing, and this argument gets heated. In fact, it gets so heated that eventually Cheyenne just snaps. And pow, she hits Brittany, and then pow, she hits her again, and again, and again, and she just overpowers her. And then, allegedly, while Brittany's down, Cheyenne takes off this braided black belt that she's wearing, and she wraps it around Brittany's neck, and she starts strangling her, and no matter how hard Brittany fights, Cheyenne just won't let go of that belt. And when she finally stops, Brittany is no longer moving, and she won't wake up. And Cheyenne, she panics because, her friend might be dead. And I guess, at that point, she puts lifeless Brittany in the car, and then she gets in, and she hauls ass out of there. Now, at this point, she could drive her friend to the hospital to get her medical attention. But that's not what she does. Instead, she drives over to her aunt's house. And I guess she goes over to her aunt, and she's still totally wasted, by the way. She goes to her aunt, and she's like, I beat up my friend, and I choked her out, and now she's not waking up for some reason. And Aunt, she looks in the car, and she can see Brittany looking all beat up and slumped over against the window. And Aunt wants no part of this. She's like, nah, you need to leave. Which, I don't blame her. Yeah, you bring an unconscious body to my house? Nah, you need to get the f*** out. But anyway, so Cheyenne leaves. Now, here is another point where Cheyenne could drive her friend to the hospital and get her medical attention, but again, that's not what she does. Instead, she drives out near a landfill on the edge of town, and she dumps Brittany by the side of the road, and she just leaves her there. And then I guess she goes home and just passes out. The next day, Cheyenne wakes up, and she claims she doesn't remember what happened the night before, and that it's a total blackout. Sure, Cheyenne. But she definitely notices that she doesn't have a phone, because she gets on Facebook and she goes to Brittany's page and she posts on her wall hope you got home safely, I need my phone. Now, obviously, Brittany didn't get home safely, because Cheyenne dumped her on the side of the road. In fact, while Cheyenne was passed out at home, someone came along and found Brittany's body lying in a ditch. And by this point, she's completely unresponsive, and as you can guess, she ultimately doesn't make it. And so now, police gotta get involved because there's a random body in a ditch. And boom, they immediately start investigating. And they're looking at the crime scene where Brittany's body was found. And they don't find much, but they do find the black braided belt that she was strangled with. And once the body is identified as Brittany, they start looking at her social media. And they notice the last thing she posted on Facebook the night she was unalived is that selfie she took with Cheyenne. So now, pow, Cheyenne is a person of interest. And so police go and they question her, which is apparently easy to do because she was apparently already in custody for a completely different crime she had committed. I told you she was a turd. But police question Cheyenne, and Cheyenne decides to lie to them. And she tells them that, yeah, she did go out that night. And she went to this house party, and that afterwards, she and Brittany went to this place called the Colonial Pub and Grill. And she says they met a guy there, and then that guy and Brittany dropped her off at her uncle's place. I don't know, it's some bullshit excuse. So then police go and investigate Colonial Pub and Grill, and they look at surveillance footage from that night, and there is no sign of Cheyenne or Brittany ever being there. Also, police discover that Cheyenne never visited her uncle that night. So now they've caught her in a couple of lies, and to them, she's starting to look suspicious. Meanwhile, this whole time, Cheyenne is posting things to Brittany's Facebook wall. I guess she's trying to make herself look not guilty. She's posting things like, I miss you, you were in my dreams last night. Or this one, I miss you so much, I wish heaven had visiting hours so I could come see you. Now, unfortunately for her, this isn't gonna work. Because rumors have already started to circulate. Because remember, Cheyenne's aunt saw them that night. She saw Cheyenne with Brittany's body in the car. And so rumors start to spread, and word gets back to Brittany's family that Cheyenne's aunt had saw them that night of the murder. And that Cheyenne showed up in the middle of the night, panicking, claiming that she hurt her friend. So of course, Brittany's family goes and reports all this to the police. So now, police are even more suspicious of Cheyenne. But unfortunately, they can't arrest her because they simply don't have enough evidence. Until 2 years go by, and detectives are working on this case, and they still can't figure it out. Now, they're pretty sure Cheyenne's involved, but they can't tie her directly to the crime, not in a way that's good enough to prosecute her. But then, one of the detectives is looking through all the evidence again, and they come across that selfie that the girls took that night. And they look at it one last time. And that is when they finally see it. Boom, it's right there, in the photo. Cheyenne is wearing a black braided belt. The same belt that they found at the crime scene. So she's wearing the murder weapon hours before the murder. And so, bam, police arrest Cheyenne. And I don't have a mugshot, but here's what she looks like in real life. And they charge her with second-degree murder, but she takes a plea deal and she pleads down to manslaughter, and she only gets 7 years in prison. So, shout out to Saskatoon.